Good morning. Welcome to Debra Quilts Lots and Knits Bits. I'm Debra McCracken and I quilt a lot and I knit a little bit. Today is Saturday, December the 5th and 2020. I'm coming to you from beautiful sunny British Columbia. I live in Penticton and we have had snow this fall, but it's gone away, and right now we're just this past week starting to get frost every morning, which, you know what, it's okay. We've had beautiful sunshine and I'm just happy with that. They say that our winter is going to be dry and mild, which is okay. It's okay. It's not minus 30 and we don't have to shovel 4 feet of snow every couple days. So been there, done that. We're happy to be here now. Anyway, if you're joining me for the first time, I come here occasionally just to talk about the things that I'm working on, whether it be knitting or quilting, and tell you about the stuff. So if you're into that, please subscribe. And for those of you that are returning, it's great to see you again. Well, I can't see you, but it's great for you to come back. And I get lots of comments about how it's nice to just, it feels like sitting down and having coffee with me. Because if you know me, I don't get out much. So when I do get out, I just tend to talk and talk and talk and talk. So this helps me get it out of my system a little bit. Anyway, what I have been working on. I had a special request for a Ninja Turtle hat. So, with a red guy. So, I did knit up a Ninja Turtle hat. The pattern is by Aunt Janet's Designs. I bought it on Ravelry. And I was looking for buttons for the eyes in my button drawer. I have a button drawer and a button box. And I realized that I gave away all my buttons this size to somebody who was doing some ear savers for healthcare workers, where you have a little button and you put the mask onto the button instead of putting it around your ear. So, but these ones just kept popping up, and they're little glass eye buttons that I'm sure I bought for a teddy bear when I was in high school. And the teddy bear never got made, and so there we go. Now we got some real eyes for our Ninja Turtle hat. Then I figured that the green was probably not a color I was going to use anymore, so I made a cowl. And I just kept knitting until I didn't have any green left. And I used a little bit of red on the bottom just to make it long enough. And the yarn that I used, sorry for popping in and out, I'm just reaching for stuff here. I'm not very well organized today. The yarn I used was Estelle Chunky, and I got it out at the Bee's Knees in Summerland. She has a great selection of things that are, this is washable. It's 50% acrylic and 40% wool and 10% nylon. So it should survive a 5-year-old easily. And she's got a beautiful selection of stuff out there. She has her, Christy, who owns a store, has her daughter Shannon, who is a potter, and she makes amazing, gorgeous pottery. And she's got lots of that out at the store too. So if you're making suggestions as to where somebody should go and get you some Christmas gifts, that's a good one. And there's a few of my project bags out there too. So if you are anywhere near Summerland, that's a definite must-see. Don't miss it. Stop in at the Bee's Knees. Anyway, the other thing that is headed off for Christmas are some little baby Grinch socks. Last year I made adult size ones for my daughter and her husband and my husband. And the pattern is from Biscotte Yarns, and you can purchase it on their website. I'll put a link below. And so I used Kate Atherley's baby socks, which is a free pattern on Ravelry. And then I finished off with the toes, the pointy toes from the Grinch sock pattern, and it was super easy to adapt. I didn't actually have to adapt anything. I just followed the directions, and they said do this and do that until you got this many stitches, and then you bind off. And then I made little pom-poms. So that yarn is by K-Zip Knits, and it's the glow stick colorway. Very cool. I have enough to make a bigger pair for next year at least, and maybe another one. And then on the Barocco Yarns website, they posted a thing with these little tiny sweaters, and it's called, check out our Minutia collection. Minutia collection. So I went on there, and every year they publish a collection of 4 or 5 little patterns for little tiny things to make Christmas ornaments out of. So I made Emma a sweater, a playdate cardigan out of this Sassy Strings Smitten Kitten sock yarn. So I thought, well, I'll make her a little cardigan out of that for the Christmas tree. And I put her name and the year on the back of it. I still have to put a button and a loop on. I've got a piece of ribbon that I think will work well for that. And so if I make a sweater every year for the Christmas tree to match the sweater I make for the kid, is that a good idea? Will I follow through? Maybe, maybe not. Good intentions. Anyway, if you go onto their website and search Minutia, there are collections like of 4 or 5 little things for the last 10, 12 years. And so there's little mittens, there's little socks, there's little Christmas bauble shapes, and it's quite fun. So I'm hoping to sit down and do a few of those things over throughout the year and build up collection enough that I could make an advent calendar or 2 for some little ones. Let's hope so. Speaking of little ones, I did not make this, but I am so excited about it. This is a little bunny that my friend Charlotte, who lives in New Denver, and her husband Ken let me stay with them every year when I go for Fibrophilia Fest. And she knits these little animals, and they are just adorable. So she sent this for Emma. And her little sweater comes off. She's got a little dress, which also is removable. And her little stockings match her sweater, and her shoes match her dress. And she's got a fuzzy little tail. Isn't that adorable? Oh my gosh. So Charlotte, you've inspired me to pick up the double pointed needles and try to make little tiny things. I'm not much for fiddly stuff, but I think that I have to do this. Anyway, I'm not sure what Emma will name her, but I'm sure it's going to be a darling name, and she's going to love her like crazy. So that's it for knitted things. I'm pretty excited to be able to send those things off. I don't often get things finished in time. I spoke about that last podcast, and I always wait till the last minute. I don't know what's with me in the last minute. The pressure always seems to make things get done. And that being said, I have a couple of Christmas gift customer quilts to do this week, and I've got a couple more coming next weekend. And so I promised those by the 15th of December. So that's like a 10-day before Christmas window. So that's, it's silly. I do it every year. I leave everything to the last minute for myself, for sure. I try to start talking about Christmas in August with my customers, and encourage them to book their quilts in October or November. Anyway, it all works out. It always does. It always does. So that being said, I did get Emma's Christmas quilt done. I was at Poppin's Quilt Parlor a couple months ago, and this little duck was staring at me. So I bought this panel and I cut it up, and I was making this pattern called Stepping Up. And so you put a contrasting frame around half of the panel piece, and then it looks like it's, well, this was supposed to look like it was steps, because half the pieces you were supposed to put the contrasting frame around the other edge, but I didn't read the pattern to start with, and I just got going. I put this on all 9 of the panel pieces, and by the time I was done, I ended up with this, which I think is called the shadow box setting or something like that, which, I mean, it's pretty easy to do. And when I did actually read through the whole pattern, there is an alternate setting. So I may have done things right. Anyway, yesterday I quilted it, and I did a few little, like I went around everybody's chin, and I ran around all the flowers and the leaves in their little headdresses, and then went around them and echoed a few times, and did a bunch of fluffy, feathery, flowery shapes in the background. And I used a very pale pink thread that kind of sinks in everywhere. You can't really see it on the black even. So it's a good choice, I think. And you might see here there's this little bit of faux piping on the binding. It's only on that edge and across the bottom. How clever is that? Well, it's a necessity because I only had that much fabric left to do the binding on 2 sides of the quilt with the magic binding, and the other, the top edge and the other edge have just plain of this striped fabric. So, you know, everything works for a reason. So the backing, I didn't have enough. I had a really pretty piece of turquoise blue flannel, but there wasn't enough to do the whole back of the quilt. So I thought, oh, you know, I've got that Laurel Birch Christmas fabric, so I could do a Christmassy thing on the back, because it's for her first Christmas and blah, blah, blah. So through my stash, and I have this. This is a Christmas fabric. And the bolt that's next to it on my little shelf, I bought at the same time. It was in the sale bin at Poppin's, so like there's only like 2 meters left on the bolt, or 3 or something. So I pulled it out thinking, oh, that's going to be very, very nice and bright for the back of the quilt. And it's got the alphabet on it. Wow, that's perfect. And then it had these little animals, sorry, on it. They're bright and whimsical. And then I look and it's like, there's cats in a baby carriage. Well, that's interesting. And then it says like baby, and then it says welcome all the way around in the border of the frame of the picture. And then this one says, the day you were born, the world became a brighter place. And I was like, that's not Christmas fabric, that's baby fabric. So there you go. Anyway, if I used 2 of these repeats, they're not really a panel, they're more of a stripe, it was going to be too big for the quilt, and I didn't want anything to be cut off. So I cut 1 panel and I framed it with the flannel. There wasn't enough to do the whole back of the quilt in. And it's kind of an offset bit now, because it's difficult to center things on the long arm, especially when you're in a hurry to get things done. So I just put a little bit of flannel on this side and a lot of flannel on that side, and a little bit here and a lot there, and it worked out really well. It kind of looks a little off center and goes with this theme, and yeah. And that is all the quilting I have done for me this past little while. If you take a look at my Facebook page, the November customer quilt album has an enormous amount of pictures in it because I did an enormous amount of quilts last month. Now, after I filmed last time, I put a little thing on my Facebook page that asked, what are your favorite videos, podcasts, vlogs that you watch? And the first answer I got was Debra Quilts Lots and Knits Bits. Thank you, Sharon. She's one of my biggest supporters, and she sends me her quilts all the way from Ontario to quilt, and there's always something, a little goodie in there too, so thank you. I do appreciate all those little things, and yeah. We share a lot on Facebook, go back and forth with comments and things like that, so it's awesome because it's like we're able to have a little chat. So somebody else, and I'm sorry I don't remember who because there was only one other answer, and their answer for which videos do you watch on Facebook, her answer was Karen Brown from Just Get It Done Quilts. And I watch Karen Brown from Just Get It Done Quilts as well. And Karen does a ton of informational videos, and lately she's been interviewing people, quilters from all kinds of places. And I think every second Saturday, but I know there was one today, she does a live question and answer video, so you can type in your questions to her while she's talking, and she might answer your question for you. But she's done a ton of videos on picking colors, organizing your scraps, how to work in a small space, and how to baste a quilt on a wall, and a ton of stash buster quilts, and a ton of quick, fast machine quilting designs, and there's just a huge amount of information. So it's Just Get It Done Quilts is the YouTube channel, and her name's Karen Brown, and she's Canadian. She's from Toronto. So the other quilting videos that I watch are Angela Walters, and she has a show now called, she calls herself the Midnight Quilter. She had the Midnight Quilt Show on Blueprint Craftsy, the platform. They put it on YouTube, and now I think she's doing it on her own, but she shows you how to start to finish make a quilt and quilt it. So she gives lots of quilting ideas. The other one that I watch, well, I'm not so regular with it lately, but it's Leah Day, and so she starts out her videos with "Hello, my quilting friends," and she talks about things that are going on, and she always has excellent quilting ideas. She's the one that did the 365 Days of Free Motion blog, and I've posted a different free motion quilting design every day for a year. Quite an accomplishment. And so if you go on and look for that, it's still all there. She shows you how to draw out the design, how to stitch out the design, and there's 365 different ideas. So there you go. And the other quilting video I watch is Pat Sloan. Now, Pat does a video every day. She makes up a calendar at the beginning of every month, and you can print it off. And she's been doing this since March. And she even did it after she broke both her wrists. So I mean, we've been with her the whole way through the surgery and the recovery and everything, it seems like, you know. Anyway, she does lots of sew-alongs, lots of blocks. She's got a ton of videos on her channel. She's got a ton of information on her website. Now, for knitting videos, things I watch the most are, surprisingly, mostly Canadian. So we start on the West Coast with wet coast wools, not West Coast wools, wet coast wools. And Glenda and Kelsey do a video, I think every week or every 2 weeks. Anyway, I've subscribed and hit the bell so I get a notification when they put a new video out. And they have a yarn shop called Wet Coast Wools in Vancouver, and they talk about lots of very cool things. And I'm always finding designs, patterns, and stuff that they are showing on there that I really, really like. So, and Kelsey is the dyer behind K-Zip Knit, who dyed this yarn. So I saw it first on the Wet Coast Wools podcast, and then I saw her at the Yarn Okanagan show a year ago, and I'm like, oh my god, and I fangirled a little bit. Anyway, she's really nice. And she started doing a little interview show on YouTube too, on the K-Zip Knits channel, so why not? Anyway, they talk about lots of things, and they do answer some technical questions. And the one thing that I learned from them is when you're working with hand-dyed yarn, you see it's got little color pools a little bit here and there. And if you alternate skeins, so if you work off of 2 balls at once and do a few rows in one color and a few rows, or one skein, a few rows in the other skein, it prevents you from getting big blobs of color on your sweater. Which sometimes that's the look you're going for, and sometimes you want to distribute it a little bit more. So that was interesting. Anyway, lots of good information on their podcast. The other podcast I watch from Vancouver is Sweet Georgia, and she has a thing every Friday, just for 10 or 15 minutes, called Taking Back Friday. And she talks about knitting and crocheting, and she talks about spinning and weaving and dyeing and all that kind of stuff. They do have a website where they have a yarn shop, I believe. You might see their yarns in other stores. And they have it's called the School of Sweet Georgia. So you can sign up on a monthly subscription basis, I think. Trying to remember, but I don't know for sure, and take all kinds of classes in all kinds of different disciplines, fiber arts related, and it looks like a lot of fun. I haven't been tempted to spin yet, but I've been tempted to take out my loom that I got for Christmas when I think I was 8 or 9 and do a little bit of weaving, because it looks pretty cool what they're showing. And my little loom's just like a little tabletop loom. I think they produce something that's about 10 inches wide. So I used to make placemats and stuff all the time, but I haven't done it for years. And to be honest, I don't know where it is in this house. I knew where I kept it in the last house, and I've put it somewhere safe here, and there's only about 5 places it could be, so I just need to look for it. Then we move on to Alberta, and River City Yarns are 2 sisters that have a yarn shop in Edmonton, and a lot of the a lot of things that they show are pretty cool, and they do a lot of a lot of information about knitting as well, and they do host some online seminars and that kind of thing. So they are actually, I enjoy watching them very much. It's just like you're sitting down having coffee with them, and it's calm. And then we go to Grand Prairie, Alberta, which there's 4 sisters called Cozy Up Knits, and it's not so calm, but it's entertaining, and it feels like that you're, just part of the family, and in the in the whole thick of things. There's 4 sisters, and they do a lot of different knitting designs, and I've done a couple of their things. the sock set shawl was theirs, and I think I've got a couple other of their sweaters. And they're just, it's like, say, like you're sitting down and having coffee with them, and their mom makes project bags, their gran is there chatting sometimes, and the kids are downstairs, and there's lots of kid pictures and lots of action going on all the time. So they're kind of fun to watch. And then we go to Montreal, and there's a yarn shop there called Espace Tricot. And I used to have a bunch of people that grew up in Montreal that I worked with, and they always had this very cosmopolitan feel about them. Brigitte had very cool clothes, like go shopping in Montreal every year, and this whole, I don't know, it was always great to hang out with them because it was always very calm and cool. And anyway, Espace Tricot, the two ladies that run the shop there, I love their podcast. It's always very calm, and they always look so classy and stuff. And they publish a lot of free patterns, and they talk about a lot of things, a lot of Rowan yarns, and yeah, I enjoy it, and their patterns are easy to follow, and that kind of thing. I've scooped a few, and I've got a few in my favorites on Ravelry, so I can work on them later. And then go all the way to Prince Edward Island, and the Fleece and Harmony podcast comes every second week. I think it's Thursday or Friday. And they are two sisters who have a sheep farm and a woolen mill and a shop, and they gather fleeces from their sheep and other farmers on Prince Edward Island and produce their own wool and dye it. And so there's always a bit of a farm update, and it's just kind of cool to see little pictures of the little lambs and the sheep and that kind of stuff. So I really enjoy them. They're always knitting very cool designs, and I'm kind of always inspired to try them. They're, sometimes they're a little more difficult, sometimes they're not. And again, they provide a lot of extra little videos on technical things. Like the one sister, I can't remember their names. She was knitting a colorwork sweater, and her gauge was off. So she ripped it all out and did a gauge swatch with one color in the right hand, one color in the left hand, which is probably the wrong hands, but it's okay. And then she did another gauge swatch with the colors reversed, and then another gauge swatch with the colors in both hands, just to see which would be the best way to get her gauge consistent and that kind of thing. And it's like, I had no idea that was a thing. I just thought that, like, you just did it. Anyway, it makes a big difference. And actually, Sweet Georgia was talking about whether you put the color up and the color down, the color dominance for color work this past week. And so I'm learning all this stuff before I actually try it, which that's coming next year. I'm going to do color work something. There's a very cool sweater with an octopus on it that I'm going to try first. The only American knitting video that I don't miss is, I watch quite a few of them, but the one that I watch the most is The Fat Squirrel. Amy Beth is hilarious. She has a very infectious laugh, and she tells stories about things that go on in her household, and she does some spinning. She does a ton of knitting. She talks about adapting patterns to her size, and I didn't know that there's lots of things that you can do to make things fit differently. Now I do. And she does a bit of gardening, and she does lots of canning and that kind of stuff. So it's very entertaining to listen to her, and it's always very positive and uplifting. So that's all I have for today. I've gone on now for quite a while, and I will let you go. In the meantime, I probably won't talk to you before Christmas, so I hope that you have a safe and happy Christmas, relaxed, or whatever holiday you are celebrating. You know, just do what's best. We're staying home, and that means I don't have to cook. I don't have to make a big fancy dinner that takes all day. It's not going to be a ton of leftovers, and I won't overeat because I made all that stuff and I really want to eat it. So we're going to have a nice roast beef, Yorkshire pudding. I'll probably still make stuffing because I like it. And we're just going to chill out. Don't even have to get dressed. Christmas jammy day all day and all night. So there are some upsides from not going anywhere. And we'll have some video calls with everybody when they're doing their Christmas morning thing, and you know, we get to be in a few places at once. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, happy knitting, happy quilting, happy making whatever you make, and happy doing whatever you enjoy to do. And just take the time to relax and enjoy. So we'll talk to you soon, and probably in the new year. We'll see. Who knows? Talk to you soon. Thanks for watching.